Everybody, happy Father's Day to all the fathers in the house. It's so good to have you with us. You made the right choice to join us on Father's Day. Everybody who didn't, they're just a bunch of dirty, rotten sinners. And, good luck to them is all I can say. Let's give it up for everybody watching online around the world this morning. We greet you. Keep on living vivid, baby. And for those that don't know me, my name is Alan, and I serve as the pastor here at Vivid Church. My wife and I moved a couple years ago, and in fact, 5 years ago this week, we moved from California to here to launch Vivid Church, and it happened, and it's amazing. And now you're with us on that journey, and it's just been really, really exciting. Hey, we are now that many years into the journey, and it's wonderful. So today, Father's Day, want to bring you a message, and I want to start with Luke chapter 5. Turn with me to Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. Luke 5, 1 through 11. Luke 5, 1 through 11. If you got it, say, I got it. If you need more time, say, hold up. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Let's get it. All right, Luke 5, 1 through 11 says this. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let the nets down for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish that they had taken, and so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." Verse 11, so they pulled their boats up on shore. They left everything and followed him. Now, when I went to college, the first day that I moved in was known as move-in day. And so I'm 18, I'm headed to Dallas, Texas, and moving into Southwestern Assemblies of God University. And we get everything all moved in. Curtains are hung. We get all the clothes that's put in the closet. We get all the furniture in the right spot and move everything around. And after a couple of my family members were standing around and my roommates' family members were standing around, it was a little awkward silence. I was leaned up against my desk in my dorm room, and I took the chair that would go underneath the desk, and I just tried to simply push it into the desk, because usually in most desks, the chair goes underneath the desk. And I have to point that out because at this point in time, this desk was real small. The legs were closer together than the chair legs could fit under it. So the chair legs bumped into the legs of the desk. Well, as I'm doing that, I'm just trying to make some conversation because, everybody's kind of awkwardly positioned around the room here. And so I just pushed the thing in, and I can feel the anxiety of the room. Somebody just needs to bring something up to break the silence. And I went, man, I really wish that I had a chair from the university that, fit underneath the desk. Now, my mom is 5'1.5", just Southern sass, fully packaged, okay? And as soon as I say this, and I say, I wish I had a desk chair that went underneath the desk, just erupted out of nowhere. And she went, well, God, son, you can't have it all. I mean, do you want it all? You want them to say jump and they say how high? I mean, come on, son, you can't have it all. I was like, man, sorry, Mom. I didn't know it was that much to ask for, a chair that would go underneath the desk, right? I guess that's everything. You can't have it all. But as I learned the first lesson in college from my mom, not a professor, I thought about that phrase. You can't have it all. And I thought, that's been the most resounding, timeless principle found in the book of Parents, chapter 1, verse 1. You can't have it all. And that's the subject of today's message. Because I think everybody thinks like, maybe I can have it all. And we go, I want this and I want that. And it's so true, right? If you want McDonald's, you can't also have Burger King. Like if you get one, you're not in two places at one time. You can't have it all. A lot of us, we want the beach body, but we also like Chick-fil-A sauce way too much. And so you can't have it all. You can't watch Netflix on your couch and go to the movies with a group of friends. You can't have it all. You no matter where you look at, if you work at this place and you choose to go to work there, you can't work over here at this place because you can't have it all. And I have realized through this that means as much as I'm a both and kind of guy, there's a lot of things in life you can't have it all. And this is a lesson that Peter is learning, and there's something in here that I want to teach through because we live like we can have it all. And we want to retire and have a bunch of money to live off of, but we also want everything around us right now and spend as much money as we can today. You can't have it all. We also like, the comfortability of our current life, but we also wish we could take the plunge and do something unknown and experience the miraculous, but you can't have it all. And I think that's what Mom was trying to say that day. And so this message, it's about listening to Jesus. It's about following him. It's about obedience. It's about looking at everything that God has for us and watching what happens. So in the story, here's what we have. We have a group of fishermen. We have a couple of boats out there. We have one really profound teacher and all the lessons that come right out of this story. It goes like this. Jesus is teaching on this shore, and as he's teaching and everybody's crowding around, he gets pushed back into the ocean almost because there's so many people that are crowding around, and he decides that he's going to get into the boat belonging to Simon Peter. And so he gets in and says, push out a little from shore. And so he pushes out a little from shore, and he begins teaching this group of people from the boat. And as he's teaching them, he says many, many things, and eventually it wears on, and he decides, Peter, let's row out into the depths out there, and let's go fishing. Now, at this point, he responds, Peter, to Jesus, saying, okay, look, I mean, we've been hard at it all night. We've been fishing all night long, and we caught nothing, not one thing. Now, what you got to understand is back in the day, everybody knew their trade really well. So Peter is a fisherman by trade. He knows his trade. He knows the best time to fish is at night. And so as he's fishing at night, when all the fish would be out and biting, and he's worked hard all night and hasn't caught anything, and he's the fisherman, the expert in his field, imagine a carpenter coming up to him and going, hey, it's in the middle of the day. Let's go fishing right now. And he's going, who are you? I've been doing this my whole life. And by the way, we just did it at the best time of night. We caught nothing. What in the world, Master? We worked hard all night. But because you say so, we'll go out there, we'll let the nets down for a catch. It's like, little sarcastic, kind of disbelief, complaining, and he thinks that he knows better than Jesus. You ever thought you knew better than Jesus? Jesus gives you some instructions along the way, and you push back a little bit, kind of sarcastic, Hey, why don't you invite that person to church? Hey, Jesus, I'm in a hurry, I'm busy. I don't really have time for all that. I don't want to invite that person to church. Listen, it's just, I got a schedule. Hey, why don't you get your family into church? Yeah, I don't know. That's be a little awkward, little weird. Hey, why don't you leave this job and go to that job? Yeah, but good paycheck, all this. I think I know better. This is where Peter is right here. And he's learning one very big principle, that you cannot have your comfortability and the miraculous at the same time. You can't have it all. So in the first place, he says, push out a little from shore. Push out a little. Is that not what the text says? It says, push out a little from shore. And then the second one, he says, put out into the deep. Put out a little, put out into deep. This is all about one word: obedience. Obedience. If I could teach on one thing for the rest of my life, it'd be this one word. It'd be obedience. I'd teach on this for the rest of my life, because there's nothing more detrimental to your story than disobedience. And what I realize is that Peter agrees the first time, put out a little from shore, and he's obedient because it's easy, because it's simple, because it's mildly convenient, and it costs nothing. The second time Jesus asked him to do something, put out into deep, all of a sudden, he's reluctant to be obedient because this time it's more inconvenient. It cost him time. It cost him money to row all the way out there and do what he's doing and clean the nets all over again and let them down for a catch. And he might have to mend them. And so here's what I realized, that if Peter pushes back the second time and doesn't really want to be obedient, although he does, it tells us that oftentimes we predicate our obedience on one word: on outcomes. Every one of you have been hardwired with the ability to predict an outcome. So when you go to a movie and you start to see the plot line unfold in the first 10 minutes of the story, you look at your next door neighbor and you go, I know how this one's going to end, okay? That one may not land as well for many people. When you see somebody get together with their significant other, their boo thing, and you're like, this ain't going to work out. And you warn them and plead with them, listen, this ain't it. Or you don't, because you don't want to deal with the argument that they're going to push back, right? You have the ability to predict the outcome of this whole deal. And so you're going, this is not going to work. And when it doesn't, in 4 months from now, you're just like, I can't say I told you so, because then they would erupt, right? But what I've noticed is that while this trait is good in life, to predict outcomes all over the world and see how things might play out, it's a gift. There's one time where it's not good at all. It's good in life, but it's bad in following Jesus, because oftentimes we predicate our obedience to Jesus based on our perceived outcome of the story, which means we will be obedient when we like the outcome. But the problem is, when it comes to following Jesus, you and I can never predict the outcome of our obedience. Am I making sense? And so when we try to do that, we then decide if the nudge of heaven, which is Jesus speaking to us and saying, will you do this? Can you put out into deep? It might cost more. It might be inconvenient. Then we will only typically say yes if we like the outcome of our obedience, which is very dangerous because last time I checked, nobody could predict that Jesus would go to the cross and 3 days later would resurrect from the grave because his obedience never would have equaled that outcome in our minds. Meaning no one can predict the end of your story. And when you keep saying yes to Jesus, then and only then through obedience of following Jesus, does God defy the outcome in the story? That's what the point of all of this is. And I want to read you a few things as I wrote it because I think it's the way that this obedience is the point. And the reason that we tell stories of faith about great things that happen all over the world and in the past is because their story had an obedient moment when no one else would have said yes, because that outcome that they didn't see or they couldn't perceive, they decided, I'm going to say yes to this regardless of the outcome. What am I saying? That we tell stories that have that side to them. We always are telling stories where we're on that side of the story, but we live in stories that are on this side of the story, where it hasn't happened yet. And so when we read stories like this that are on that side of the story, it helps boost our faith to be obedient to Jesus because we're living on this side of the story. And we go, maybe, just maybe, God could do something great in our life like that. Faith to follow is never, ever about outcomes. It's always about an outlook. What could happen? I wonder what God would do. And when we think about an outlook, it affects our obedience in saying, God can do anything and God can do everything. So I will follow him regardless of what I think the outcome might be, because I choose to be obedient, because I know through the outlook, my part is obedience. The outcome's not up to you. Did you hear me? The outcome isn't up to you. Your part is obedience. God's part is outcome. And anytime that God wants to help you be obedient, just like he wants to help Peter be obedient, he extends to you an opportunity. Very simple. Put out into shallow. He says yes. He's obedient. And you know what happens? When Peter's obedient to the first opportunity, you know what he gets next? Another opportunity. And that's how it works in our life. And oftentimes we're frustrated with life and we're not seeing as many opportunities as we want from God. And maybe it's because you haven't been obedient to the last opportunity quite yet. And God doesn't give you next opportunity before you've been obedient to the last opportunity. And how you steward this opportunity determines if you get another opportunity. And if you missteward this opportunity, then God says, great, we have to learn that your level of obedience is at this current stage of opportunity. And when we master this, you get blessed with another opportunity. The reward for your obedience is a greater level of obedience with greater level of opportunity. Now, this makes it risky because that means we're always graduating. See, in life, you graduate from dependence upon your family and the school system and the structures and all this. You graduate from all that dependence. Somebody wakes you up, somebody helps you eat, somebody pays for your bills. You graduate from that level of dependence to independence from all the structures. And now you're on your own. And now you're out of the house. And now you're free to make your own choices. And all the parents said, amen. And so then you're free. You're free as a bird. The world's your footstool. You graduated from dependence to independence. And the problem is that we can take that framework and place it on God. And if it's true that every opportunity is given to us based on obedience to the last opportunity, it means that we do not graduate from dependence to independence. It means we graduate from dependence to greater levels of new dependence. So that means that you're always going to have to depend on God. You'll always have to stay with God. That the next opportunity to be obedient will require your dependence upon Him in new ways like you never have been before. And so this is where Peter finds himself. Master, we've worked hard all night and we haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I'll let the nets down for a catch. He lets the nets down for a catch. Verse 6, when they had done so, when they were obedient, when they had done so. See, you don't have to have perfect obedience. God can still work with reluctant obedience. Because as long as you still can say, when I had done so. See, that's the beauty of grace. That's the beauty of Jesus. When they had done so, then they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. God's looking for people who are not perfect, but are willing. It's not about perfection. It's not about being the best. It's about being willing. When you're willing and available to take a next step with God, then you begin to move in the levels of opportunity and obedience that God has for you. It says that they came and they filled both so full that they began to sink. And when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and says, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." Now I want to focus on this because sometimes it's disobedience that can cause us from walking into the opportunities that God has for us. But oftentimes, it's not just disobedience that'll do that. Oftentimes, it's discouragement that can keep us from saying yes to an opportunity from Jesus because of our personal opinion of ourselves. Meaning, feelings of inadequacy and feelings of insecurity have derailed more destinies than pride or arrogance ever have. Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man. Peter's opinion of himself has now started to help him or cause him to slide away from obedience. Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man. Don't allow your personal opinion to keep you from being obedient to the opportunity that God is giving you. Because the identity issue that he's facing here is, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I made a mistake, I thought the outcome would be different, and I predicated my obedience to you on that outcome, and because of that, I feel like I've messed it up. And you just hear his negative self-talk finally coming through and feeling like his opinion, his personal opinion of himself has now sank into a place of discouragement. And he's about to just walk away from everything that God wants to do in in and through his life. So don't let your personal opinion of yourself keep you from being obedient to what God is asking you to do. Because he didn't say, you're right, Peter, go away from me. You terrible, sad sack. Get out of here. Can't use you anymore. You just jacked up, didn't believe me, didn't think about it, all this. He doesn't say that. What does he tell him? He says, don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people. He says, I can work with you just the way you are. I can work with you just how you are. I love you enough to take you as you come, but I love you too much to leave you the way you came. And so I want to work on how you see yourself, Peter, because he moves from being Peter the fisherman here to now being Peter the disciple as he's walking with Jesus. And however it is that you see yourself, God has always wanted to help people see themselves the way that God sees them. There's two things that are clear in Scripture. One, what we think about God is of the utmost importance. And the second thing that comes right behind it is what we think about ourselves. And this is true throughout so many people in Scripture. So if you don't feel very highly about yourself, you're in great company. Because all throughout the pages of Scripture, the opinion that someone had of themselves was something that God was wanting to work on. When it was Moses in the Old Testament, God said, I've called you to go to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Well, he thought, I can't do that. I have a speech impediment. I can't talk well enough. I stutter, and you want me to tell Pharaoh to let the people go. This doesn't make sense. And he says, so what should I tell him when you send me? And he says, well, I'll be with you. Tell him that I am. And he begins to morph Moses' opinion of himself to show him, I see you as the leader who's going to send the people through the Exodus. I see you as God's chosen man to do a great work. I see you differently than you see yourself. Can I tell you, God sees you differently than you see yourself. And when we finally see that God sees us as His creation, that He has ultimately gone and paid the price for so that we can have perfect relationship with Him, that it means He uses us the way that we are in the state that we're in. This is the gospel. That God would choose people who don't have it all together to do things for His kingdom and influence the world so that we might lead people closer to Jesus. This is astounding. And that's all cooking in why you might not be as obedient. Because if it's not outcome, then it usually is opinion. And so if we're not predicating on outcome, then we usually are looking about, well, what about me? I don't know if I have what it takes. And especially on a day like today, Father's Day, the Father has made you the way that you are, and that doesn't mean you get to stay that way, but He says, I want to challenge the opinion of yourself, and I want you to see yourself the way I see you. You are a fisher of men, is what He tells Peter, and now He wants Peter to walk in this new calling, this new assignment, this new grace that He has on his life. So do not allow your own personal opinion to keep you from being obedient to what God is calling you to do. Now, here is the last piece of the pie. You, like I said, you can't have your comfortability and the miraculous at the same time. But I love verse 11. There's one more thing we can't do. They pulled their boats up on shore. Now think about this. The boats come up on shore full of fish. Tilapia are flopping everywhere. A lot of money right here for a fisherman. Highest level of opportunity he's about to get. Consequently, the most it's going to cost him. Put out a little from shore, entry-level obedience, entry-level opportunity. Put out into the deep, mid-grade obedience, mid-grade opportunity. Watch out. Leave everything, Peter. Hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in this boat in fish. The largest catch he's ever seen. In fact, it says that the boat was so full that the edge of the water met the edge of the boat. We call that sinking. Okay? And he said, large level opportunity will require large level obedience. I want you to give all this up. You can't go sell a fish. You can't go make $1 off that. I want you to give all this up and follow me. And then I'll make you a fisher of men. Well, what does that mean? It was all a metaphor. It actually happened, but it was a metaphor. And this level of obedience would mean it was a foreshadow to what's going to happen in the future. That Peter would, and you and I would pull people out of a sea of sinfulness into the ship with the Savior until the ship was sinking under the weight of salvation. That was the point. And I want you and I to get to heaven with a backache because we have been pulling people out of a sea of sinfulness our whole life. And just working out and exercising, going, they're not meant to be there. They're meant to be here with Jesus. And he said, so I want you to walk away from all of that. Now, this is the call of Peter. Imagine if Peter would have said no. Now, I don't mean say no as in I'm not going to follow you. Imagine for a moment if he said, okay, I just want to make sure if all this falls through and you are just one crazy teacher that I made a mistake in choosing to follow, that I got a plan B. Imagine that Peter brings his boat. And in every account of the entire gospel narrative with Peter, it says, and then Jesus went into the house with the leper, and Peter came right behind him carrying his boat. And then they went to feed the 5,000 men plus women and children, and there was Peter tugging his boat right behind him. Imagine if it said, and then Jesus, on the transfiguration, when he reveals himself as the person who is the Christ, the Son of the living God, there comes Peter just tugging his boat, just dragging it along. How weird would that be if everywhere Peter's like, hey, disciples, y'all go ahead. I'm going to take this with me. In the event that all this just doesn't seem to work out, I'm just going to drag it around, and there's Mary, and she's pouring perfume on Jesus' feet and all that. Oh, and Peter, he's over there in the corner just positioning his boat. Hang on, guys, I got to lean this up against the wall. We might need it one day. There's the tomb of Lazarus. Jesus says, Lazarus, come out of your tomb, and here's Peter going, yeah, just a minute. As soon as I get this boat all positioned, just follow me. Leave everything. What am I telling you? You cannot bring your boat. Whatever this is in your life, it doesn't come with you. You cannot bring your boat. But you know what I see so many times? Christians going, yeah, I follow Jesus. I'll bring this along with me too. Yeah, you can't have it all. Yeah, I want to be married to a person who loves God and loves Jesus, but I just keep dating all those wrong people. I just got a lifestyle that can't seem to get out of it. I like Jesus, but I like all those people too. Man, I wish that I could be a generous person, but I'm just so stingy and greedy. I like my Starbucks and my Chick-fil-A and all that. I don't tithe to the church. I tip the church because, I just decide, hey, you can't have it all. Man, I just am so lonely, when I come to church and I'm like, man, I wish I had a bunch of friends. But I got a lifestyle loneliness where if anybody gets too close, I'm afraid what they'll see. So I didn't join a small group, though they told me to. You can't have it all. What boat do you need to leave on the shore today? Because you can't have it all. And you can choose to be obedient to what God's asking you to do, or you can try to follow him and bring your boat and he'll leave you behind. Oh, I just wish that I could have impact around the world like all those people I read about. But every time that Serve 101 comes around, I decide I'd rather watch football on Sundays and not go to church and serve it. But boy, I wish I could have a legacy of impact and all that. Hey, you can't have it all. You can't bring your boat. Jesus says, what about the greed and the pride and what does the boat represent? Because see, it was Peter's former lifestyle. And Jesus said, I met you in it, but I called you to walk away from it. And if I met you in it, I'll take you just as you are. But verse 11, they left everything and followed Jesus. Everything in the Greek means everything in English. We try to make it so hard, and complicated, and it's really not. It's just, there used to be this song that said, you can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world, take this heart and breathe on. This key's a little high. This heart that is now yours. And I changed the lyrics because see, I think sometimes, did y'all ever hear that song? I think sometimes we say, you can't have it all, Lord. Just some parts of my world. So take this piece and breathe on this heart that's halfway yours. We try to instruct Jesus along the way about what parts you want. Will you bless this part and you bless that part? But I'm going to hold back on this one. You can't bring the boat. What do you need to pull up on shore and go, okay, God, it's yours. It's yours. Like, when did we start to believe that we had the right to reserve pieces of our life and our heart and go, I'm keeping that one for me? No, it wasn't you or me that died on the cross. It was him when we didn't deserve it. That God's not impressed with our attempt at holiness. That God's not impressed with our ability to do what we do for a living. That God says, it's me that made the difference in the story anyway. Leave it all behind and follow me. You can't have it all. But you know what's wild? You can have it all if you give it all. That Peter was just a fisherman. That Peter, unknown, anonymous, had nothing going, caught nothing all night. And as the story would unfold, he would be one of 12 people that would change the world. He would be the first disciple that would preach the first sermon at the birth of the church. And the prophetic metaphor would come to pass where 3,000 people would be saved in one day. What's wild is when you look at the potential of how many fish may have been in that boat, scholars have suggested it's around 3,000. Which means that in the same thing, Jesus said, you can't have it all if you give it all. Because what I'll do in the future on that side of the story will blow your mind. If you don't try to predicate your obedience, Peter, on the outcome of the story or your opinion of yourself, but you just receive the opportunity and be obedient, you can have it all if you give it all. Oh, I'm tying it together. What do? You receive how God sees you. Don't think about the opinion of yourself. Don't try to predicate all the obedience on the outcome. What do? When you sense the opportunity from heaven, you're obedient to it. And it gradually, God continues to grant these greater levels of opportunity. And the greater the obedience, the greater the opportunity. That's how it works. But you can't bring your boat. You gotta leave certain things behind. What do you need to drop off at the cross today? What do you need to hand over to Jesus so that for you, verse 11 is true? So he or she pulled up on shore, left it, and followed him. What do you need to be obedient right now to? Because this service is what? An opportunity. What will you do with it? What will you hand over to God today? The call to action is to discern what it might be and simply release that into Jesus' hands and go, okay, I'm following you, whatever that looks like, because this is an opportunity for you to be obedient. Stand with me as I pray for you. God, I thank you for your great presence. I pray, God, that you would speak to every heart, every life in the room right now. Lord, that your heart's so big for people. And on Father's Day, we celebrate that you're the one, the great Father, the perfect Father, who's already done it all. And so we thank you for your grace in this moment. And I pray that you would now illuminate opportunities for people to be obedient right now. Right now. Right now. Right now. Opportunity. Illuminate opportunities for people to be obedient to you right now. With every head bowed and eye closed, there's this particular group of people that I want to pray for. Maybe the opportunity that you need to be obedient to is the opportunity to initially follow Jesus by giving your heart, your life, and your soul to him and coming into a salvific relationship and saying, God, save me from myself, save me from sin, save me from hell, and I want you to save me and help me connect with you. Maybe for the first time ever in your whole life, or for you to say, I am rededicating my life to Jesus right now. And I believe that there are some people in this room, that is your opportunity to be obedient to right now in this moment. If that's you, on the count of 3, I want you to raise your hand up at me, and I'm going to include you in this next prayer. 1, this is your moment. 2, you know exactly who you are. 1, 2, 3, if that's you, would you raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you. Come on, who else? Very good. We're all going to pray this prayer together right here. One giant family, all on mission together, leading people closer to Jesus. Dear Jesus, I give you my life. I receive your grace. And I pray that you would forgive me of all my sin. I'm not living for myself anymore. I choose to live for you. I put my faith in you. I put my hope in you. And I give you my life. Now fill me with your Holy Spirit. Tell me what to do next. I am all yours. In the mighty name of Jesus, we say amen. Come on, put your hands together for 2 people saying yes to Christ this morning. Welcome home. Come on, we're going to sing this song about running to the Father. And as you run to the Father spiritually today, may you lop off certain things on the shore of this church and say, God, that's yours. That's yours. I can't bring it. I'm leaving it behind today because I'm running towards you now. Whatever that is, may God speak to you in this moment. Come on, let's lift our voices and let's lift our hands and let's begin to worship the living God. Come on, Thanks for watching. Head over to vividchurch.com so that you can stay updated with all things Vivid Church. Join us in person or online for one of the services so that you can be a part of our Vivid Church family. But don't stop there. Please share this video so that we can help other people live the vivid story that God has for them. Thank you.